This is episode 3 of the Latter-day Saint Geeks podcast. I'm Spencer, and in this episode, Michael and Rob talk about their love for Chrono Cross. They get into how this game caused waves in the JRPG community and how it still has a following after 20 years.
Welcome, everybody, to the Latter-day Saint Geeks podcast. I'm Rob, and I have with me my co-host, Michael, today. How are you doing, Michael?
I'm doing great, Rob. How are you doing?
I am good. Thanks for asking. So, has it been a geeky week for you, Michael?
It has been a great geeky week for me. Uh, Something I've been reading lately is a series called Cradle by Will White, and it's a fantasy level up series that has Chinese inspiration in it. And if you like RPGs, then you would like this self-published author.
Hmm.
Um, I'm hoping to do a podcast later on, trying to convince you, Rob, to read the series.
Yes.
So expect that later on, folks.
Sounds good. Sounds good. You said a fantasy level up series.
Hmm.
So it's like very heavily based on like the traditional JRPG or RPG kind of format.
Yep.
That's really interesting. I'm really interested to see what that's like in a book, and kind a little bit scared, a little bit skeptical, but interested.
See, I was scared and skeptical too, but then when I started reading it, like he just pulls you in and you
Yeah,
just care about the character and the characters that you are introduced to.
yes.
And it's just so much fun.
I love me a character-driven fantasy story. So it sounds like it's up my alley. And there are a lot of really good independent fantasy authors out there. So I'm guessing he's kind of in that bunch. I,
Hmm.
I don't know a lot about Will White, but I've heard his name bouncing around a little bit on the internet.
I think he just was one of like Amazon's top like
Yeah,
authors that when his last book came out for Cradle, it was the number
nice.
one book being sold.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure that's a very competitive market. They've got a lot of people putting out books.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a big platform for authors. Well, cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. What
Um,
what geekiness did you like this week?
oh man, what geekiness did I not like this week? I am always looking for more time to play another Eden right now. It's this mobile game. It's from the creator of Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross, which kind of goes along with our theme today. Another Eden very much just takes me back to being a kid. Um, I I basically grew up with two consoles when I was growing up. I had the original Nintendo, which my older siblings, had from probably before I was born. I don't remember when it came out exactly, original Nintendo. And when I was like 8 or 9, we got PlayStation. And one of the earliest games, not the first game I played, but one of the earliest games was Final Fantasy VII. And later on, I played Chrono Cross. And I just fell in love with it because it's similar in many ways to Final Fantasy. It's from Squaresoft, and anyways, another Eden just really takes me back. It's a mobile game, but it has all of these, very story driven, very character driven, and, level up mechanics. But the mechanics that are there for, battle and, upgrading your characters, their skills and their weapons and everything is very, catered to a mobile experience, and it's really won me over. So really enjoying that game a lot. I don't have enough time in the day to play it usually, but I get to it, a couple times a week probably.
Is there is it the type of game where you just grind a lot?
um so you can, there's definitely a lot of grinding to do. That the interesting thing is your characters can level up pretty quickly, and you also get items that you can use on the particular character you're trying to level up. And then there's also sort of these like bonus levels that you can just sort of repeat, as much as you wish, that give you instead of giving you items or progressing in the game, you can just get a ton of experience based on like just going into this particular kind of dungeon.
Mhm.
And then also just you sort of get items from completing quests. They're called scrolls. So like a high class scroll can just like automatically give your character, I don't know what the number is, but it's like 50,000 or 100,000 experience instantly, which is really necessary because if you had to just grind, there would be a lot of characters that would hold you back from progressing in the storyline because, like, even more so than Chrono Cross, you can recruit dozens and dozens of characters in this game. And so it's helpful that they have these mechanics that help you sort of skip through that process a little bit rather than having to, do it the hard way every time you recruit somebody new. So yeah.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, no, it's a good time. It's a good time. So I'm for that, partially for that reason, I'm really excited that we're talking about Chrono Cross today because I can talk about this game just forever. One of my favorites for sure.
Well, how about you start off? So, as everyone knows, or as you can guess, we're going to be talking about Chrono Cross today. How about you tell the audience what Chronos Cross is and give a brief summary of what it's about?
Yes. Okay, so just to go over it really briefly, we've talked about JRPGs. They're very story based and very character based games that are usually in either the fantasy or sci-fi genre. And JRPGs in particular have been a really big theme in gaming. There's all kinds of different JRPGs out there. There's I think Dragon Quest would be considered one. There's the Final Fantasy series, there's Xenogears, there's Legend of the Dragoon. There's all these classic JRPGs out there. Chrono Cross came out around the year 2000, so it was the very, very end of the PS1 era. It was either 1999 or 2000, and it is very much in the JRPG tradition. Um, and Chrono Cross is actually part of a franchise. The game Chrono Trigger came out several years before. It's set in the same world, but Chrono Cross is often misunderstood as a sequel to Chrono Trigger. It's actually just in the same universe, and they share some of the same world building, and there's a few of the same characters kind of peppered throughout, but Chrono Cross is very much an independent storyline. It's just within the same universe as Chrono Trigger. And this will be kind of a spoilery podcast because we just want to talk about all things Chrono Cross. And I would say the big difference is in Chrono Trigger, the developers wanted to explore time travel, and in Chrono Cross, there isn't as much of a time travel component. It's more of a interdimensional travel based game. So there's a little bit of time travel in there. But most of the game, like the story mechanics and sort of the plot line, is based around these two parallel worlds that exist side by side and are sort of, battling each other out. So would you say that's a good introduction to Chrono Cross,
I
Michael?
feel like that's a great way to describe Chrono Cross without spoiling anything about it.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and man, Chrono Cross, it's just if you watch reviews and things, they're like hands down, the music in this game is just out of this world. Just so it just really immerses you. It's set in this tropical island sort of archipelago. You know, like as you go throughout the game, you travel from island to island, and you're in the tropics, and like the music and the colors and the world building and the way the characters are dressed and all these things really just immerse you in this world. And it just has this really unique flavor that if you were like me and you were playing the Final Fantasy games as a kid and then you went to Chrono Cross, it was just so unique and so special. And it has this way of really drawing you into this world. It's
And let
just
me
really
just
cool.
add that like the music starts off before you even start the game. Like
Mhm.
before you even
Yeah.
get to the title sequence, you have this strong opening for this
Hmm.
song. And and if you never played the game before and you decide to pick it up, don't press any buttons. Just let the music play for
Yes.
the first time and just enjoy the scenery, enjoy the movie, and then you get a feel of what this game has in store.
Mhm. Yes. Yes, very much so. So the composer of this game is Yasunori Mitsuda, and I think he actually is responsible for a lot of the music in Another Eden as well. And yeah, like so the opening, um like the introduction to this game, just like Michael said, the music, there's this piece called Scars of Time, and I don't know, you kind of get this montage of all these different scenes from the game, and just the music in the background just I don't know how many times I've listened to it, but it's just been over and over and over again. I
Man,
actually
I put this song on my playlist. I have a
mhm.
playlist, and that intro song is in there, and I listen to it ever so
Yeah.
often.
Yeah, Scars of Time is really something else, but that's just the thing, is that there's all these other pieces in this game, like a few, like the boss battle music that you'll
Mhm.
hear, throughout the game, and then there's a couple of pieces that are saved for really significant boss battles, kind of as you're getting closer to the end of the game, as you're like reaching a really strong plot point. They're yeah, the music highlights things in ways that is just chef's kiss, maximizing the storytelling capacity of a video game. Because when you're like, in it, and you know that this boss battle has been coming for a while. It's like you've kind of butted heads with this particular character, or that you're at the end of the game, and then the music comes in, you haven't heard it before. It's just like a whoa, man. And then yeah, just sort of traveling throughout the islands, like the main character's name is the main character's name is Surge. And like at the beginning of the game, you transition from a lot of there's like the intro, and then there's a little bit of gameplay that just throws you into just this really intense situation. You don't even really know what's going on, but the music is very intense. And then it cuts to, well, Serge is waking up. He actually just had this dream. And then there's just this calm, soothing music. He's this boy who's growing up in this seaside village, a fishing village, and you're just like, wow, like I can't wait to explore this world. There's just all these colors. It's like just this really soothing, calm, like, destination, that I get to enjoy. So I don't know, like that there's some really like gold transitions. Like one review I listened to online was just like the what would you call it? The first act. Like if you look at a story as having three acts, with Chrono Cross, the first act of storytelling is just like out of this world. Like you're just drawn in by just everything that this game is throwing at you. It's just amazing.
Mhm. That's what I actually liked about the game. Like the first act, I would say is flawless. There's nothing. It's a perfect first act.
Yes.
And I have no complaints for the first act. Like everything was just so smooth, so it reaches the climax at the right time, and then it ends, and you're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that just happened.
Yeah. Do we want to get into like summarizing the story a little bit, or I don't know if we do we have time for that in this podcast?
Right now
Um,
we have about 4 minutes left.
4 minutes left. So we've just been like gushing about Chrono Cross without actually getting into it at all.
I would cut this portion out if I can.
Yeah. Um, I would say that like Chrono Cross is pretty divisive, especially because Chrono Trigger itself was also a very popular game. I mean, it wasn't like played by the same number of people as like a mainline Final Fantasy or, other big games at that time, but like Chrono Trigger has this huge cult following. It's very, very well reviewed. And when Chrono Cross came out, it was very different. And people were still perceiving it as, well, I want a sequel to Chrono Trigger, and Chrono Cross must be the sequel we've been waiting for. And then they played it, and it was very intentionally by the creators a very different game. Um, just a very different feel. Gameplay elements were changed. The story did not continue it from Chrono Trigger. It was, a very much a standalone game. And, the original playable characters were sort of excluded. And so that really turned a lot of people off from Chrono Cross. And then there were other elements about the game where um, like the second and third act of the game, the pacing of the storytelling changes a lot. Especially in the third act, the storytelling sort of slows down a lot. And then I think um, there's a couple things where since the game is focused on these different dimensions, the gameplay mechanics sort of hinge on decisions in ways that you wouldn't expect. Like there are characters that you cannot recruit based on the decision that you make, the way the storyline branches.
And can I
And
just interject right
oh
here?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like this is like a huge moment too, because you might be thinking, oh, let me just help one of my teammates
Mm-hmm.
in the game, and then you notice that like if you try to save that individual, this is me trying not to be spoilery, but this spoils. You kill like an island, like a whole island just dies
Yeah.
off because you saved a teammate,
Yes.
and it's a consequence that you have to deal with, and then like all these people are
Yeah.
just like homeless.
Yes. And then also, if you choose to save your teammate, you also miss out on recruiting one of the best characters in the game.
Yeah, this is the same teammate too.
Yeah. Um,
And
yeah. So yeah. And
there's
yeah.
consequences to all the actions you choose
Mhm.
in the game. Whether
Yeah.
if you choose to do this, if you decide to go down this one path, it excludes all these other paths. And it's just interesting because, like you were saying earlier, Rob, you hop from one world line to another, and
Mhm.
and you can see like the differences between each world, where like the one that Surge is from originally seems very
Mhm.
prosperous, like everything seems to be well for them. But then when you go to the other world line where Surge is dead, spoilers, um, like that world line is kind of like what's the word when
Well, the news that Surge is dead is very disturbing, first of all, in this other world. And then you find out that he was actually they were individuals were expecting him to cross over,
Mhm.
into
They were
their
waiting for
dimension,
him.
waiting for him and hunting him down. And yeah, so
I,
your introduction to the rest of the world is sort of this sense that like, wow, this is very unsafe.
it's not
I'm
as
like,
advanced in some regards. Like I think for the first like a long time, most of the merchants I went to, they wanted to trade with me and not
Yes.
buy, like I couldn't buy anything. I had to trade with materials. But then when you come
Yeah.
back to your home world, there's more people that's willing to
Yeah.
sell you stuff with currency.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like weird differences, weird nuances the way the game functions. So yeah. Yeah. And then there's just the fact of like they attempted with this game to create a lot of recruitable characters, and with a lot of JRPGs, people sort of expect that any recruitable character will have like their own backstory and that they'll influence the plot line and things like that. And with Chrono Cross, that really wasn't the case. There's sort of a core cast of characters that affect the plot line and have a backstory and things. And then there's like a second tier where they have a little bit of backstory and they have a little bit of effect on things, but they really, like, if you don't recruit them, that doesn't really change the way the game plays out.
But if
And
you
then
recruit
there's
them, it adds to the lore of the game.
yeah, there's like an addition to the lore of the game for sure. And like every character has that, but then there's like the third tier of characters where it's like they're just kind of there for fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then people have sort of like criticized that quite a bit, just having this sense of like, what's the point of all these characters, which I can sympathize with that, but at the same time, there were limitations with how much memory could be contained on discs for the PS1 and stuff like that. So I think the developers were very ambitious, and in many of their goals they succeeded, and in other goals, you know, you just had to wait until another Eden to really to really get that full experience that I think the creator of the game, Masato Kato, or the director of Chrono Cross, Masato Kato, he I think really, with another Eden, he's kind of realized that vision and that he was attempting to achieve with Chrono Cross. That's how I see it.
I like that. And next time when Rob and me meet together, we're going to discuss more about the characters of Chrono Cross. So stay tuned for the next episode of Chrono Cross. Cue
Awesome.
outro.
Thanks for listening to the Latter-day Saint Geeks podcast. We're members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but we don't represent the church in any official capacity. Remember to subscribe to the podcast. You can see our show notes and blog posts on latterdaysaintgeeks.com, and you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Latter-day Saint Geeks. Music was provided courtesy of David Schradel.